All right, what's up, everybody? I am here to do the upgrade on my Sovol SV06. We're going to be pulling out this board with that lovely clone processor, and we're going to be putting in our EZBoard V2, which I have right here in my hand now. As of doing this stream, we are out of stock on them, but we should have stock in about a week. We do have more on the way, and this, in addition to just being a faster board and a better design board than the stock one, this is going to let us do certain things like adding on our Easy NeoPixels to it. The current board that's in there, because it has the GigaDevice clone processor, actually does not support the NeoPixel libraries that are required to drive those type of lights on a printer. So even with our firmware, you aren't able to add the lights on, and that's something I do want to do to the printer at some point. And our board does have a dedicated NeoPixel header right there. That we can just plug this into. My goal tonight is to get the board in and get the firmware all set up. I did start doing the framework for the firmware, so you guys are going to see me doing some work on the firmware on the live stream here. Basically, we're going to get the board installed, show you what's involved with actually swapping it out, and then once the hardware is physically installed and all the connections are made, I'll switch over to the computer and we're going to go through some firmware stuff. It'll probably be kind of boring, but it's necessary to do, because then once that work is done and we've actually tested it on this machine with the board, then I'll be pushing an update to officially support the EZBoard V2 with this printer. So my plans for this are swapping the board. I've already done the power supply swap, as you saw in a previous video, and I'm going to show you guys how to wire up the stock auto bed leveling sensor. And if I have time tonight, I am going to replace the stock sensor with our EZABL kit. Now the EZABL kit can run on the stock board in addition to our board. The thing we will need to connect the stock sensor to our control board is just some male to female DuPont jumpers here. I already have it documented and figured this out off camera, what pins go to where on the sensor, and this will actually connect to the BL Touch header on our control board. So if you're switching just the board out and you want to retain the factory sensor, that will be a supported configuration, and you'll be connecting it as I do in the video here. And like I said, there will be a support article on the website, on our help center, that will go over the details. So there's 3 wires on the sensor. There's a 5-volt, a ground, and a signal. So I'm going to use these just as a temporary thing, just to get it up and running, since I will not be using that sensor in the long run. I'm not going to bother trying to change the plug, because in the long run, instead of having these, I'd recommend either modifying the plug down from a 5-pin to a 3-pin to connect to the servo header on our board, or crimping on a new JST XH3 pin. So there's a bunch of different ways to get the sensor connected to the board. This is the quickest way, no cutting or splicing, just using jumper wires. So, oh yeah, my shirt. I got this, there was a stream I was on, and this guy had a shirt from another guy, and this is like a 90s, like Dale Earnhardt type shirt. And I'm online right now, so... I mean, I don't think YouTube would demonetize me. I think they have like a thing where if you swear in the first 30 seconds of the video, they will actually demonetize you. So YouTube can suck my balls. Get it? Energy drinks. So, all right, we're going to jump into this and just start wiring everything up. So I've already got my camera here pointed at the printer. We do have, I do want to mention, we do have our Easy Out sensor kits working on the stock board as well. I'm going to go ahead and unplug this. You can see here, I've already got the custom cover we have and the Meanwell 350 watt on here, so I got rid of the stock power supply. The filament sensor, I'm probably going to route up here and just have this hanging out up at the top of the spool holder. I'm sorry that my extra light is in the way here. But basically just have this hanging out here like they have on the SV06 Plus, come down here, and then go into the control box. So I will be adding this onto the EZBoard. This will also work with the factory board. I have the adapter on here, and you actually don't need the adapter with our EZBoard. You literally just need the sensor. So I may end up just cutting this heat shrink off and going down just the cable, so there's one less thing in my control box. But this does work with the stock board with the adapter. You can also repin the cable, but a lot of people tend to damage these. So what this board does, this repins the connections from the sensor side to the board side without having to get in there and push pins out of the JST. So anyways, let me get my chat up here on the left. so I can actually see you guys in my video preview on the right there, so I can make sure that I'm in frame and everything and all that good stuff. All right. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to get inside the control box here. Let me get my camera all moved around. And I do actually kind of like this. This is a nice control box. You just undo this one screw here, and it opens up. And I do have an SD card in here. This is the stock board. I will be keeping this board on hand for testing. And I've got my TH3D screwdriver set. We do have these in the store if you guys don't have a nice precision set. I've been using this one for over 2 years now, and look I haven't lost any bits. And this is still my favorite feature over all the other sets I've had in the past. Bam! You want access to your bits? Woo! TH3D store. I need like those little side banners that Linus has, like, you know, get it from the TH3D store. Luckily, they did actually put crimp ferrules on everything, so I won't be having to redo that, thank God. But let's get in here and get everything disconnected. So there's a couple of things we will not be using on here, like the DET plug. This actually goes to the stock header. So if you are installing an EZOut with the stock board on this printer, you just unplug this plug here. Maybe actually, you know what, I'm going to do this so I can cut this out. So if you're installing the EZOut on the Sovol SV06, you unplug the DET plug here from the 3-pin header right there. And then you take our EZOut sensor with the adapter and plug it into this header. And then you enable it in the firmware, and just like that, you have a filament sensor on your stock board. It's actually that easy. So you just basically shove this down in here, route the cable out, and put it wherever you want. You can route it down to the hotend if you want. You put it up to the top. I'm going to put mine up top. So, but we're going to be using the sensor, but with the EZBoard. All right, everything luckily is labeled. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect all this. This does have a fan on the control box, so this is going to go into fan 2 on our board. And I'm going to double check the polarity. I think it's correct, but we're going to check polarity. Let me zoom in here so you guys can see. And they do have hot snot on all this. So usually what I'll do if I'm trying to get rid of the... Oh man, what happened to my camera there? Did you guys see that? Oh no. Is my HDMI port going out on this camera? That would suck. I'll just have to be careful. Maybe I need a new cable. I'm just repositioning my microphone. All right. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and get the hot snot off. You just kind of pry it. You see it pops off pretty easily. So there's our E motor. This should be our Z. And then Z is actually 2-into-1, so we don't even need a splitter, even though our board has it built in. Here's our Y. Like, why did they use a clone CPU on here? Because this would have been a really nice board, honestly, if they didn't use a clone processor. Like, if this did not have a clone processor on here, I probably would not be putting our board in it. But the fact of the matter is they did to cut costs. You know, they can't have a perfect printer. They got to screw something up somewhere, you know? The K fan here, this is the layer fan, and this does not have, like, polarized colors. So I am going to check with a multimeter really quick. I'm going to assume it is the correct polarity, but I don't like assuming. So we know it went in here, and on our EZBoard, if we look here, you'll see the left side pin is the positive. So I want to just take my multimeter with the power on, and I'm going to check to make sure that that bottom pin is actually the positive output, if that makes sense. So if it is, that means this is a direct plug into our board. I think it is, but again, I'd rather test it now and not have you guys play Russian roulette with fan polarity. I think you can probably appreciate that. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to plug the printer in, and I'm turning it on. You can see the light come on, and I'm just going to go on my LCD and I'm going to turn the fan on and then measure the polarity here. So I'm going to assume the bottom one is going to be positive and the top is negative. If that's the case, there shouldn't be any repinning needed because that'll match the default on our on our control board. So, all right. Let's just see here. So there's my multimeter. I'm going to turn the fan on. All right. The fan is on. Let's go ahead and check our polarity. So I'm assuming this is going to be negative on top, positive on the bottom. And I am correct. So there is no pin changes needed. So this will be a direct plug-in for the fans going to our board. So that's good. All right, we're going to go ahead and unplug the printer. Let that power supply discharge here. And then this is our ABL plug here. This 5-pin plug here. So this is what goes to the stock ABL. And I believe I wrote with marker on here. I did take pictures of it. I already have it on my computer. And you can see here, I labeled this ground, so G, and then 5 for 5 volt and S for signal. So that's what I'll be making the jumper connections to the servo header on our EZBoard V2, so we can use the stock sensor. Like I said, I'm not going to use the stock sensor long term. I am going to be putting our EZABL on it, but for now, just to make sure everything works stock, I'm going to do it that way. So I'm going to keep taking these out. That's kind of a pain. This is the thermistor plug up top here. And these cables coming from the ribbon, they are very thin, so just be careful. You see I popped it out with the flathead. And they are labeled. So we got K-fan DET. This one's not going to get used. Where's the thermistor one? What is the thermistor? So our hot end thermistor is labeled just TH. I'm assuming that's it. This is the bed thermistor, the white or the yellow one. You can tell that because it goes to the wire going to the bed. So let's go ahead and get the LCD disconnected. And then I'm going to get the power lines disconnected here. The reason for the upgrade, well, one, people are asking us for it. And two, this has a knockoff CPU on here. This does not have an actual STM32 processor. So if you wanted to do stuff like NeoPixel lights, it's not supported on those chips because they don't work with the STM libraries. So you're kind of SOL on that. And then this processor is actually less than half the speed of ours and less than half the memory. So it's a lot nicer and faster of a board. So these here are the hot end ones, and they did actually label them here positive and negative. So the red is positive, the minus is negative. So this is the hot end power ones. This one is for the fan that's on the hot end. So this is the always on fan here, and we do have a terminal on our board for that. And then we have the bed wires here, and they're all crimp ferrule. So thank you, Sovol. You guys did something right. I'm going to see if I can move this around because I'm going to want to work on it like this. And I also want you guys to be able to see what I'm doing here. But I think that might be a little difficult given how tight all this space is. So I'm going to get all these cables out of the way here. Get the power cables out of the terminal down here. Let me know if this is a good enough view for you guys. I'm going to clip this up here, and I'll put another zip tie in place just to get this out of the way. Look how much, oh, it's so much nicer. And then I'll just put a new zip tie in here. I'm going to have a cable going out here anyways for the filament sensor when we add that. So I was going to need to modify that anyways. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 screws here. And they're 2.5 3mm screws. I'm going to grab my 2.5 bit here. And we're going to take these out. And hopefully the new board fits right up in here. It looks like it should, because I have a feeling Creality did this board for them, which is probably why it has knockoffs in terms of the processor. You can't win them all. It's like they do so much stuff right on these Chinese printers, and then they got to screw it up somehow. And in this case, it's the knockoff processor. The other thing is when you're updating the firmware on this stock board, you have to go back to stock and then to the update before you can do an update. So basically you flashed from stock to the new one. If you want to do another update, you got to go back to stock, then to the new one. Whereas with our EZBoard, you can just flash over and over again. So it's just a lot more user-friendly. So here's the stock board, in case anybody wants to Look at that. There we go. And this really reminds me of a Creality 422, 427 type board. It really does. Also, here's an interesting thing I noticed. I found this when testing. Do you guys see this little switch here that says on and then there's a 1? By default, it's in the up position towards on. And I found out what this does is if you turn this off, it actually enables the X and Y end stops and it disables the sensorless homing. So if you're having issues with sensorless homing, make sure that this switch is in the up position. And that's for this printer. This is only on this Sovol board. So this is going to go in my testing drawer, so I have the stock board here. I always keep the old boards just in case. So now let's just compare our EZBoard here to the Sovol. And you can see here, everything looks to be lining up pretty well. Main thing we want to look at is the SD slot and the ports. So the Sovol one uses the micro USB, ours uses the mini one. We just like these because these are a lot more robust than these micro ones. These micro ones crack off the boards easily. But the screw holes look like they'll line up correctly. So you can see there, they followed the Creality bolt hole pattern for the most part. We have an extra hole here, but that's fine. We're not going to use it, but you can see these two line up. So I think this will be good to just drop in. So let's go ahead and do that now. It's funny, actually. Look at, there is actually a standoff here. There's nothing populated in it, but there is actually a hole in the injection molding for this hole that the Creality boards use. Do you see that? That's crazy. So yeah, definitely some Creality DNA in this thing. All right, so let's see. Does my USB and everything line up? It does. The mini USB port is a little bit of a tight fit. You can see there. I might take like my like a little knife there and widen that up, but the SD slot lines up. The USB port's just a little tight there, but this is just plastic. So everything else fits great though. All the screw holes line up correctly. The SD slot, let's see if that works correctly. Yep, no issues there. Let me grab a mini USB cable and see if I actually have to widen that hole up a little, which is not going to be hard. So let's see. I'm going to hold this in place. Will the mini USB go in there? It's going to be tight. I don't think it's going to go without... Oh, hang on. I lied. Okay. So it's a tight fit, but it does go in. I'm probably going to widen that hole up a little bit just to give me some little extra room. I'm looking to see if there's anything inside that is hitting. I think it's just the hole there. Let's see how tight it is on the stock board. I mean, if that's the only fitment issue we have, that's pretty damn good. Yeah. So the other thing too is, if you notice, their board is a lot thinner than ours too. I just noticed that it is a thinner. Is it thinner PCB? No, it's the same thickness. Yeah, it's just a port size. So, whatever. I'm thinking I could probably just take my little tool here and just kind of ream it out a little bit. There we go. I think that'll do it. Making sure the screw holes are lined up. They are. Let's see if that's enough. I think that'll be good. Yep. There we go. So if you're going to do this, you are going to have to modify the USB port hole a little bit. I see it's on a slight angle. It's going to bother me. I'm just going to even it out there a little bit. There we go. Whee! All right. Gorgeous. Look at that. Gorgeous. Okay. Does EZBoard support the PT100? It does. But I think on this one, I'm trying to remember, on our EZBoard V1, we used, I think we used one of the programming header pins. I think this one uses the BL touch pin, which is what we're going to use for this sensor, for the stock sensor. Whereas the EZABL is going to connect to the Z and stop. But yes, the EZBoard does support the PT100. It's just on the servo header. So we have the servo header right here, and that's what we're going to use for the stock sensor to use that with this board. And then if you're using the PT100, I don't know why anybody would use the PT100 anymore. The PT1000 is a regular thermistor, and it doesn't require the amplifier board. You shouldn't be buying a PT100 these days in 2023. That is an antiquated thermistor at these days. So I have a PT1000 thermistor. That's what I use for my printer that's set up for high temp, the Ender 5 Plus behind me. So, all right, I'm putting the screws in. All those screw holes line up. Putting the last one in down here. And now we need to reconnect everything. Now, if memory serves correct, I think our polarities on the terminals are the same as the stock board. I'm going to switch over to a Phillips bit because that's what our screw terminals use. You can use a flathead, but you get better contact with the screw. All right. So yeah, you think after hooking these boards up a million times, I'd know it by heart. But yeah, so the red wire is going to go onto the left for here. This is the main power input. And then the black wire is going to go to the right. So I'm going to get this down here. Put this into the terminal. This is hard to do at this angle. Come on. Kind of like feeling around in the bottom for the hole in the terminal. All right, so I'm going to tighten that down. I don't know. I don't see your comment at all, Metal Arm. And I don't see that YouTube flagged it, so I don't know why it didn't come up. I can't delete comments. I have my hands in a printer right now. All right. Let me loosen that up a little bit. Give me a little more room in the terminal. It is hard not being able to see the holes. Maybe I should have hooked this up before I put the board in. Watched him fumble around with a screw terminal for 5 minutes. Don't feel bad if it takes you a second. Yeah, don't use the exclamation point Q. The bot is running, but I'm not checking those. Yeah, but like Blasto, I see it flagged your comment making an eye, like an emoji. I see some reflection coming off here. Let me clean the lens real quick. There we go. That should be better. All right. All right, I'm going to plug the LCD in. The LCD just plugs directly in to the stock header here. So that goes right there. And then this fan goes to fan 2, which is the header here. And we have clear pictures of this board on our website, so you don't need to refer to this video. So the X here goes into the first port. And get rid of all this hot snot on here. X twist compensation. You need to replace your gantry that's bent. As far as I know, there's Marlin that has like a skew, but that's like a printer frame skew. But if your X-axis has a twist in it, I'm assuming you have like a V-slot printer, just replace the extrusion. Otherwise, you're going to have all sorts of issues. I think somebody, maybe it was Teaching Tech, did a video on that. Maybe you guys know what I'm talking about. But yeah, for this stream, try to keep questions to this printer. This is not a regular Q&A stream. All right, so I got the Y hooked up to Y. So on our board, it's like the stock one, X, Y, Z, E. So here's the Z. You can see there. And the headers on our board are actually inverse of the other one. So I have to like turn these around and then plug them in. All right. And then our E is not in here because it's going to the motor, which I have I have that disconnected right now. So I'm going to get all these other ones. I would definitely recommend moving that out of the way, the cable here, until you get all this stuff connected, because it makes it a hell of a lot easier. All right, so on our terminals here, we have, excuse the HDMI port on this camera. It is just going crazy. I'm going to replug it. Hang on. Oh, of course we're having issues with it. There we go. All right, I'm just trying to get in here. Like, this printer is really hard to get in here. So, but you can see on the board here, we have everything labeled. So you've got your fan plus and minus, which will connect the fan plus and minus to there. We took out the stock one. Then we have bed plus minus, and then hot end is plus and minus. So we're going to connect that in the same exact way. So there we go. We got our bed, positive and negative. In terms of like any Marlin features, we do not, just because they're not shown in the configuration doesn't mean that they're not present in the code. So if there's a Marlin feature that is not listed in the configuration file, you can re-add those in. You know, the only catch to that is if like you're adding in a feature we don't officially support and there's an issue with it or you need help with it, that's not something that will be covered under our technical support. But the source code's there, so you can do whatever you wish with it. So it's not like it's stripped out and you know, you can't re-enable it. It's just not presented as a configuration option. All right, we're gonna hook the bed up. So we got our E temp is at the top, E temp, bed temp, and then we have Z, X, and Y end stops. We're not going to use the X and Y end stops or the Z end stop on this one. We will use the Z end stop once we hook up the stock, or hook up the EZBoard in place of the stock sensor. So let's get the ribbon cable hooked up here. And I'm just going to, because I know I'm never going to use these, I'm going to get rid of these extra wires here. So like this DET connector, I'm never going to use this. And you don't have to do this to your printer. I'm just getting rid of excess cable, so I'm going to get rid of these because I'm never going to use those. This is going to the filament detection port, which they don't even sell a sensor for it, and we're not going to need it with our EZBoard. So TH, this is your hot end thermistor. So this is going to go to the top port here. And then we've got our fan plus and minus, which is going to go to fan plus and minus terminal down here. And then we have our hot end plus and minus, which is going to go up here. And you have to make sure you get the polarity correct because they are sharing positive and negatives on things. So you don't want to reverse them. So we're going to go here. So this is the hot end. So you can tell it's a hot end wire because it's got multiple wires in here. There's 3 wires, it looks like. Maybe 4. Yeah, 3 wires going to each ferrule. So those are the hot ends. So they're doubling or tripling up on the wires because they're thin wires to carry that current for the hot end, which is fine. All right. Put that one in there too. At least they have ferrules. If they did not have ferrules on here, I would be putting them on here. Will our high temp thermistors replace a PC1000? If it's a cartridge type thermistor, I believe so. We have the physical specs of like the diameters and length of our thermistors listed on the product page. So just compare that to what you have already. I believe so, but I don't know what PT1000 or PT100 you have or 1000 you have. So I don't want to be like, yes, it'll work, because there could be slight variances depending on different manufacturers. All right, so we've got the K fan here. This is your layer fan. See that there? K fan. This is going to go into fan 1, which is the one right next to this header here, or to the screw terminal here. And then we got to connect the E motor, which is these 4 pins here on the left. And that's going to go to the E port here. And then after this, we're going to go into the what I would probably consider the boring part, which is I'm going to be fumbling around with the firmware, and we're going to do some testing live here on stream. And get the firmware going. So I got a couple more connections to make. I got the fan connection, and then we're going to put the jumper wires into this to connect this to the servo header so we can use the stock ABL sensor. And like I said, I know not everybody wants to replace the sensor. My opinion is use it till it dies and then upgrade to the EZABL. Nothing wrong with using it. I'm going to replace it preemptively because this printer is going to my fiance and I don't want her having any issues later down the road. So I'm not going to sweat, you know, not spending like $50 on a sensor now, which our EZABLs right now are $10 off through the end of the month. We're running a sale on those. So if you guys are looking to get an EZABL, they're $10 off right now through February. So take advantage of that now. We don't put those on sale too often. All right. So last connection I'm going to make is the stock ABL sensor. So if you want to retain the stock ABL sensor, that will be a supported configuration. Basically, the firmware is going to assume you're using the stock ABL sensor. The one last thing I do before we jump to that is I'm going to connect our EZOut sensor. And if you're using the stock board, you do need the adapter box here. But since we're using our EZBoard, I don't need that. So I'm actually going to be able to just cut the heat shrink off here and remove the adapter board here because we do not need it with our board. It allows the filament sensor to be connected in any direction. So I'm going to get rid of that. So it's one less thing in my control box. Let me just cut this out of the insulation here. I did a video showing how to assemble this, which is why it's assembled. All right. So this is our filament sensor, and you've got the red, the black, and the white wire. The filament sensor here is this 3-pin header on the board right here. Do you guys see that? And the red wire needs to go towards the main power input. So I'm going to connect it just like this. And this is all in the EZBoard installation material. So this is going to go on that header there. And the white wire on this printer is going to go up. And the red wire is going to go down. So let me just, I realize I coiled this wire up. And the reason I'm putting this on now is because I want this to come out of the top of the machine here. And I'm going to route this wire up to the top of the printer. So there we go. I'll have a filament sensor on here, and this works with this will work with the stock board as well as our board. So, all right. I'm going to go ahead and mount this back up with a zip tie. So I cut the original zip tie. You don't have to. It just made it a hell of a lot easier to show you guys. So we're going to re-secure this here with a new one. These are the Ultra Premium TH3D zip ties. They're, you know, special made just for me. Super, super limited edition. Restock date on the EZBoard, we should have in about a week. They're on the way. We are still having like delays on sourcing parts, and they are still expensive. We originally were targeting an $80 retail price on the board until all the supply chains got screwed up from, you know, that human malware that was going around. So they're gluten-free. They are. The EZBoards are gluten-free. They are. Absolutely. All right, where do my jumper wires go? Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to connect these jumper wires to the servo header. So if you want to see a close-up picture of the servo header, you can go on our website and look at the EZBoard documentation. I'm going to zoom in real quick and see if I can get it here. It's kind of hard with it in, like, this printer's a weird angle. So you can see the servo header is right below. We got NeoPixel here and then servo, and you can't see the labeling, but from bottom to top on this video, it's 5-volt ground and signal. So I'm going to take these DuPont wires here. I'm going to take the female ends and put them on there. My 5-volt is going to be the gray. My ground is going to be the purple, and the signal is going to be blue. Now, it does not matter what color you use, just remember what goes where. So I'm going to put these on here and just shove those in. And then gray is 5-volt, so 5-volt on here is the second pin over. And I'll zoom in, and again, I have pictures of this that will be going on the website, so you guys don't need to watch the video. But so 5-volt is the gray on here, because that's what I used, and then ground is the purple. And then the blue is the signal. So, and these just go to the ground 5-volt signal on the servo header on our board. Now, I wrote these on here, so if you guys look at this, this will be your pin out: ground, 5-volt, and signal. The first 2 pins, and the 5th one, the 2 center ones here, are not used. Now, if you're going to use the DuPont method, I would recommend just putting a little piece of electrical tape over here to prevent it from getting pulled out or touching things. So I'm going to do that right now because I am going to close this up, and then we're going to switch over to the firmware. All right. Always wrap up your cables. A little piece of electrical tape saves you a lot of pain and suffering later on. All right. There we go. So I'm just going to stash these down in here. Get them out of the way. It is really easy. Look at, you can see Sovol pinched the damn wire when they built this printer. That was like that when I opened it. So I'm just going to stash this down there. There we go. Make sure that the cable does not get in the way of the fan when we close this. This box does look nice, but it is kind of a pain to work in, but there we go. We're all done in there for now. I'm going to put the screw back in here. If I can find it. Where did it go? Oh, it's right here. I tried to, it tried to pinch the wire again. Damn it. There we go. All right. Now, if I power this on, this is probably going to, I think I have some Ender 3 firmware loaded on here. But now we're going to test. So I'm going to make sure everything works. Like, not works, but like turns on and we get, you know, the LCD here. So when you get these boards, they will have a testing firmware loaded on them. This board I previously used for other testing. So you can see here it's got a newer build, but it will show a test firmware on the board when you guys get a new one. So this one is technically a used one. I've had this one around here. I have some boards that are like customer returns or stuff that we can't sell as new. They end up going in my printers and getting tested. So we're going to switch over to the firmware side of things. And you guys are going to get to watch me write code. It's super exciting. Super exciting. All right. So now we got to get the code. So we got all the hardware done. We just got to get the code done. Now, I believe I have most of the code done already. So let me go ahead and get my GitHub open here. And give me 1 second. Just going to go ahead and make a new EZBoard V2 folder. And like I said, once we're done with this stream, I'll be pushing these updates out to everybody. Oh, everybody likes the shirt. It's funny because I'm online right now. You see there's AOL on there? I had to get it. It's amazing. All right. I'm also going to be working on a new Visual Studio Code video this week. All right. Go ahead and switch over to my monitor here. And I have the firmware open. There are directions for how to use our firmware, but like I said, we got to do some testing here. So I think I got most of it done. I am going to tell it I have SV06. I'm going to tell it I have the easy out sensor. And I don't need to do anything else because this is assuming, now here's how we do our firmware. If the printer came with an auto bed leveling sensor, we're going to assume that you still are using it. So in terms of connecting the sensor like we did, we're going to go to the servo header. That's the default setup that I have in the firmware. So we're going to test all that. And you can see here we have SV06 Easy ABL options. So if you do go to an Easy ABL, you would tell it, hey, I'm using this mount here. And then you're going to tell it you have an Easy ABL installed, and that'll disable the stock auto bed leveling settings that I've pre-set up. So I'm going to go ahead and compile this. I don't know if this is actually going to compile. I coded this like at 2 a.m. a couple days ago. So we're going to see if it actually compiles. If it does, we're going to put it in the printer. I'm going to see what works and what doesn't work. And if I'm assuming stuff's not going to work because I haven't actually tested on the printer, I literally just put the board in. You guys just watched me. So I got my SD card. I have a full-size SD reader, so I have to use an adapter. All right. And then I'll let you guys watch that. It's compiling. My stream is probably going to get laggy. It eats my processor. Like, VS Code uses a lot of your CPU here. I'm dragging task manager over. Look at this. It is just hammering it. Like, all the freaking cores. Just boom. It will use every single core you have. So basically, the faster the computer you have, the less time it takes. It usually takes about a minute on this computer when I'm not streaming, and streaming is using up the utilities. Usually takes about a minute, but probably going to take a little bit longer because I'm streaming. I'm really shocked that there's no errors popping up yet. Usually when I kind of blind code something, I get at least one or two. But we'll see. I really doubt I'm going to get it right on the first try. All right, so this is the first. You guys just witnessed the first compile for the SV06. I'm going to copy it over to my SD card. So there we go. Firmware.bin is on the SD card. I'm going to close this out. I'm going to pop this out of the computer. We're going to put it into the printer. So I'm going to turn this off. And those of you guys that have been flashing your SV06, you will not have to flash back to stock firmware. Our board, you can just keep updating it over and over again. All right, so it'll turn on, and if it's going to like my SD card, it'll update. You'll know it's updating because you won't see the logo right away. So I'm assuming it's updating, and what we're going to do is I'm going to plug this into my computer. We're going to test the end stops, make sure those are reporting correctly, test the auto bed leveling sensor, test the motion, and see what works and what doesn't work. If everything seems to be working correctly, meaning the directions, end stops, then we're going to try homing it and see if anything breaks. So I'm going to plug in the USB, that little extra plastic material that I reamed out of there with my, what is that called? The deburring tool worked great. I see manually, is it possible to use a filament run-on sensor on the SV06? Yes, it is. Yep. I will be making a dedicated product page. You're basically going to plug it into the DET port on that printer. On the stock board. So on the stock board, you will plug our kit into this 3-pin port here. There is a plug already in there. You just unplug it and you'll connect our kit to here and then update the firmware. But anyways, let me open up Simplify, and I'm going to go ahead and we're going to test all the stuff. So this is what I do for every single printer. I literally spend time here testing it. I'm connecting right now to the board. Oop, wrong one. Connecting right now to the board here over a serial command or serial console. I just use Simplify because it's installed. I'm going to send M502, which is default settings, and then M500. And what I want to see is I'm going to do M119, and we see Zeman. We can ignore that because we're actually using the probe. So this is an inductive probe, so we have to have a metal cert thing under it. So I'm going to put a wrench underneath it and see if it's reading. So you can see I'm putting the wrench under. It says triggered, and it says open when it's not there. So the sensor is reading and working with our board. I'm going to go ahead and jog it. So this is where it's going to get fun. We're going to see if things go the right direction. So I'm going to tell it to move the X to the right 10 millimeters, and it's going backwards. So I told you there's going to be something. So I'm going to have to reverse the X direction. Is the Y the same story? So I'm going to tell the Y to come forward 10. The Y moves the right direction. Let's see if the Z, does the Z need to be inverted? I'm going to tell it to move up 10. And it did. So I just need to reverse the X. So the X motor needs to be reversed. And this is stuff you guys will not need to do. I'm just doing this right now. Now, I did set up the sensorless homing on here. I don't know if it's going to work. I'm going to see if Y, since Y is moving the right way, I'm going to see if sensorless homings work. So let's see. Is it going to work? Nope. It does not like that. So I probably have something, either I forgot to set the sensorless homing, or it needs to be tuned for these drivers, this board. So the EZBoard V2 does support sensorless homing. So this is actually the first printer that's actually using sensorless homing. So let's go into my config, and I'm willing to bet I probably did not set up the sensorless homing for this printer config. So we know the direction is going the wrong way on the X, so I'm going to reverse that. Where is that? It's down here somewhere. Okay, so X, so I basically need to flip these around. All right, that'll fix that. Now I do have here the sensorless homing. If disabled, we're going to define the XSH calibration. I thought I already enabled this above here. Did I? Yes, I did. So X sensorless homing, nstop pull up, xmin ymin. That's correct. Oh, hang on. I think we had to. Oh, yeah, I already disabled it. I would have thrown an error if I didn't. Okay, so let's see here. I think there's stuff I got to do in the configuration backend. Let's see. SV06. I'm checking to see. It's been a bit since I messed with the sensorless homing. Let me see here. If enabled, X sensorless homing stall guard sensitivity calibration. Do I not have the stall sensitivity set in here? I think I might have forgotten that. There's a calibration. And then the... Oh, no, that's the same one. I was going to say, there should only be one there. So X stall sensitivity is set to XSH calibration. We're having here, if we define X axis sensorless homing or Y, it'll enable sensorless homing, which I believe we are doing. Are we not? Oh, we are. Wait, if disabled, what did I do here? I'm enabling it here. Aha, that's why it's not working. I gotta take this out of the if disabled. What I need to do is do an if and def. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm defining I'm defining a calibration value if a default one is not defined, if that makes sense. So we have this SH calibration setting up top here. And basically, I need to set, I'll suss this out off stream. This is going to be boring. I basically need to see if it's not the default here, 8, because it's obviously automatically defined. I need to override it and make it to 90. So I'm just going to by default say, no, we're just going to override it for now. Basically what that'll do is it'll make it so we have a default. So that it is enabled, it's just not setting these, which is why the bed crashed. So we fixed the X. Let's go ahead and do that. I am going to check here if the E moves. Let's go ahead and check that. So I'm going to tell the extruder to heat. We got to tell the extruder heat because if I go and tell it to extrude, it's going to tell me here cold extrusion prevention. So we got to get over 170 C in order to move that. So we're going to check that. So actually, I'm gonna test this. I'm gonna set the calibration. I'm assuming it's gonna be in here. It's just set to 8 right now. So because I didn't evaluate the if-else statements I put in there, yeah, they're set to 8 right now. That's why it didn't trigger. All right, so I think X we have set to 90. What's the default here? X is set to 90 and Y is set to 75. So we know Y is moving in the right direction. So let me try set it to 75 here. I'll set it to 75, and we're going to see if it still gets angry and crashes. All right, so it's set to 75. The hot end is heated, so let's try to move it. Let's see if it goes the right way. So I'm telling it to extrude. It is going the wrong way, so I also have to reverse E. So do you see that there? I have to reverse E. So it's going forward when I tell it to retract. So we do have one more reversal to do. And again, this is nothing you guys will have to do. I'm literally getting the firmware dialed in for this printer right now live on stream. So try to make things easy. You guys just don't usually see it. This is how the sausage gets made. All right, while we're waiting for that to recompile, I'm going to go ahead and home the Y, and let's see what the new value, if the sensor's homing is working correctly. 90 is what the stock board does. Oh, look at that. Yeah, so it was just the calibration value because I didn't evaluate my code correctly when I was doing the testing. But that'll be fixed in the final release. All right. Not bad. So I didn't have the E direction going the correct way or the X, and then just had to set the sensitivity for the sensor's homing. That's pretty damn good. I feel like that's pretty good for a just type up the code and see what works. I feel like that's not that many things that need updating in the greater scheme of things. All right. So hopefully there should be one last firmware update, and then, yeah. All right. Copying the bin file back to the SD card that I just compiled. And remember, we're going to want to set the EEPROM, especially since those homing values are stored in the EEPROM. So we're going to go ahead and reflash and then store the EEPROM. I'm going to double check the motions one more time. And I think we're going to be good to home after this. Hopefully I didn't just jinx myself. All right, I heard the board connect over USB. It's booting up. I'm going to connect to the COM port again on my computer. And I'm going to go ahead, if you guys can reset the EEPROM from the screen, so you go to configuration, all the way to the bottom, reset EEPROM. And there we go. All right, I'm going to check the motor direction again. So X should move to the right this time. There we go. And I know I have the steps per millimeter set correctly. Y should move forward. E is almost at temperature. All right, let's see. E should move the correct direction. There we go. Got filament coming out. And all right, let's just send it. Oh no. Oh no. No. The damn HDMI cable. All right, I'll do that one more time. I got excited and I hit the camera cable. There we go. Stock sensor's working. Sensorless homing's working. So there we go. Home X. It'll just use the sensorless homing. And the Y. And we'll home Z. All right. Let's go ahead and do a quick test print. Do a G29, just make sure the bed mesh generates. Let me get the shmoo off my noozle. Come on. All right. Do a G29, make sure the sensor is reading correctly. I gotta see also if I set the Z auto align up. Let's see. Motion. I did. We'll see if that works. I'm going to tell it to auto Z align. So after it's done with the G29, it should do an auto Z align. All right, so let's see if it does auto Z align. Yeah, it's going to raise it all the way to the top. And then it's going to just mash it up against here. That's what the stock firmware does too. I'm just making sure the filament doesn't uncoil. This is actually our Lucky Penny silk copper filament that we have. I like this for test prints. I don't know why. And the control box fan is working. That turned on. There we go. Auto Z align. And now it's going to come back down. Cool. So that's all our core features working. I am going to check here to make sure the filament sensor is working. So we can also use the M119 test to figure that out. So if I do M119, it'll do it after it's done doing the current move. I got a little piece of filament here. We're going to make sure it reads triggered when the filament's in and open when the filament's not. It's almost done homing the Z. It'll get there. It's going. And then we should see it spit out. So here we go. So right now filament is open. I'm going to put filament in the sensor here. Send it again. And we're seeing triggered. So there we go. That's working correctly. All right. Well, I just got to add some code in there to make it so if you guys adjust the sensitivity for the X and Y homing, my settings don't override yours. Other than that, that's pretty much it. So basically what I need to do is evaluate. So if this is not equal to 8, because that's the default. So if we go up to the top, you can see 8. Basically, this is our firmware default is setting it to 8. So basically, I assume if this is not 8, you're telling the code you want to use your own. So I basically have to tell it if SH calibration and YSH calibration are equal to 8, then we're going to want to set our default, which is for this printer 90 and 75. If it's anything else, we're not going to want to do that. So I'll go ahead and write that code off screen, but that's basically it. Do you guys want to see me do like a quick little test print here? I do have it hooked up to USB, so I can just do that. We'll do a G28. I'm going to preheat this to my print temps here. I'll just do like a quick cube. How's that? Is that acceptable for you guys? I'll do a quick little test cube here. Let's see. Thought I had a 20mm test cube somewhere. We'll do a Cali dog. How's that? We'll print a little golden retriever because it'll be the same color as Comet. So I'll go to prepare to print, and we're just going to print over USB. All right, let's do a quick little print here, and then we'll wrap this up. And I believe all I have to do is, for that SH calibration, I need to basically just say if SH calibration equal 8, then we're going to undefine it. I believe that's all it's required if memory serves correct. I don't use that evaluator that often, but I will test it. I try not to put out broken shit in terms of code. I try. Let's see if it gets mad at me. I think all that's required is this here. If this is equal to 8, then we're going to override it. If it's anything but 8, then we're not going to do anything. So that's taking its mesh. It's funny, you can see the MOSFETs turning on and off in the control box there. Those are doing their PID loops. I would recommend PID tuning the hot end. You see it's overshooting by like 4C. Our board does support PID tuning, so I got to set my Z offset because it's a new print. So I'm going to just do that real quick on the fly. I believe mine was like negative 1.3 or something like that. Oh, no, a little more. Hang on. We're getting that squished down. All right, yeah, negative 1.9. That sounds about right. All right, I'm going to go here, configuration, and we're going to hit store settings. We got the confirmation beep, and now we're running our first print with the EZBoard in here. How's that? Oh, I just realized, okay, we can test a filament sensor too. So right now, I forgot I left, it wouldn't have started if this wasn't in here. When I was testing the filament sensor, I left one here, but watch. If I pull this out, it should stop it. It usually takes a sec. Unless I don't have the starting code updated for USB printing, which is very possible. I think I'm using a profile that doesn't have the starting code. Or did I not? Oh, there it goes. It just took a sec. So basically, your printer has a queue of codes for like how many G codes are queued up, and as soon as you pull that filament out or it runs out, it puts that code in the queue. So basically, when I permanently mount this, I'm just going to put this up top here, and I'm just going to let this kind of hang out like right here, if that makes sense. I'm going to just have it just right there, have the cable on the back. Let me go ahead and put this in. Okay, I got to adjust the, what is it called? The, what's the word I'm looking for? The purge speed and length for this printer. This hot end does not like that. I'm glad I tested that because this is, there we go. Did this jam? Did my hot end just jam up? That'd be great. It is an all metal hot end. All right, I'm gonna have to adjust the load and unload length on here. Let's try that again. I thought I told it that this was a direct drive printer. No, I think the nozzle clogged. It's not pushing through. Of course. Of course. That's great. Yeah, it's not pushing through at all. All right. Well, let's try to unclog this damn thing. That's fun. That's a little too big. Little Allen key. Yeah, you can see the door lever bouncing. All right, I think I cleared it. Let's see. Why is this not feeding? Okay. What the hell? Come on. Why are you not coming out of here? All right, let's see what this did. Great. I'm assuming the retract was a little too... Oh, holy crap, it wrapped around it. That would do it. I was like, what the hell? That makes sense why it didn't feed. So basically, because the setting was wrong, this is why I actually test all this shit. Because I don't want people having to deal with issues like this. I can't believe that this wrapped around like that. All right. Clog cleared, or jam, I should say. That should do it. Let me adjust the load and unload setting before we try that again. I remember that I thought I set the load and unload settings for a direct drive printer on here, but apparently that must have been old build. Okay, filament's feeding through finally. Let me see What settings? I might be thinking of the stock board firmware now that I think about it. Let me see. Because that seemed like a lot of filament it was moving. So let me see here. Board configs, Sovol 131. Let's see. Yeah, see, I have direct drive printer uncommented here, or added in here. I need to have direct drive printer in the EZBoard V2 config. So it is in the stock board config, which makes sense why I didn't have that issue I just had where it basically just yeeted the filament. So no big deal. I'll just add it in here, and that should do it. So let's go ahead and recompile. Yeah, because if you have the load and unload lengths set too high, like too long, it's going to try to push it through at a fast speed. So your load and unload lengths are set in the configuration advance, and we have in the back here different values depending on what type of printer setup is. So you can see here, if it's a direct drive printer, our load and unload length is only 20 millimeters. So basically it was trying to do an unload length of 100, which is why it basically just freaked out and wrapped itself around the gears. So that's why we test stuff. All right, let's go ahead and copy the firmware file over. So there we go, firmware.bin. I'm going to eject that, go reflash the printer. And I'm going to test it again to make sure that it actually works correctly. I might design a mount to put this up here. What do you guys think? Like something to come off of the two bolts here for the spool and just kind of put it right here. Like include that with the kit. Just like something to put it right there. What do you think? The only thing about that is versus just having this here and like the cable holding the sensor. Like I feel like this is easier to load, but I'd be worried about that hitting. I don't know. Something I can figure out later. I just want to have a filament sensor on all my machines. All right. So again, we're going to reset the EEPROM. I'm just going to do that over USB since it's quicker. M502, M500, and we're doing G28. All right. Let me see here really quick. Wait, wrong baud rate. Wait. No, okay. We're at 250K for this machine. I think that's the factory firmware. We tried to mirror the factory firmware. Let me look that up because we're at 250K baud rate for the serial. What do we have? The default for the SV06 is 115,200, so I got to change that in the firmware too. Again, we want to match the stock one, so basically when people drop this in, it's not going to be a big deal. It is 115,200. Is S3D just connecting weird? Let me disconnect and reconnect. Okay, somehow it was S3D was connected at 250K baud, even though the firmware set to 115,200. That's wild. Usually it errors out. All right, let's try to print the Shep model again. All right. And oh, of course, I gotta see if it's this cable or if it's this camera that is not working. Come on. Let's try it again. I'm gonna have to change this out. I do have extra cables, and I do have an extra camera, so I'm going to assume it's probably the cable. All right, we're gonna print this. Let's try it again. And this time I'm gonna pull the filament sensor here, and we're gonna basically let it run out and see what it does. I'm going to put a zip tie around the top here to hold the cable here. So I'm just going to put double up on these smaller ones. I think these are the crappy ones they came with. Where are the better ones? I think they're in the next order. Yes, they are. The thicker boys. The ones that these came with, they're really just not great. Yeah, I'll need to double up on it. All right. All right, there we go. Now the sensor is not going to be flailing about all crazy like. But what I'm going to do is once it starts doing the first layer, I'm going to go ahead and clip this and make sure that the load and unload speeds are good. And I did reset my EEPROM, so I'll have to reset the Z offset, because it'll be set to 0 right now. Trying to get the whole printer in the shot here, so you guys can see when I cut the Z, or cut the sensor. All right, so here's my baby step. I remember it was negative 1.9, so it's probably still going to be negative 1.9. I'm going to wait for it to start. And just negative 1.9. All right. Get the schmoo off the nozzle. All right, so let's see if the runout sensor works correctly now with the new settings. There we go. We're going to snip it. Put my filament through the spool so I don't lose it. And I should realize in a sec that it's out of filament. There it goes. Let's see if it freaks out again. So it does the little retract, purges it out. All right, that's what I expected. So there we go. Put it back through the sensor. And hopefully it'll be happy with this now. So insert filament, press button. Oh, so much better. Look at that. Helps to have the correct settings. Okay, I'm going to get the schmoo off the nozzle. And we're going to resume the print. Look at that. Worked exactly how I expected it to. Kind of like where it is, just like up here you're talking. Like set the sensor like right here. I feel like right here would be good. Just having it like a 45. What do you guys think? I can probably whip something up for that. That'll be fine for now. Hey, it's simple, it works. There we go. So we got a filament sensor on here. And like I said, the filament sensors we sell will work with the stock board as well. You just have to use our firmware. While we're waiting for that, I'm going to go ahead and make the product page for the filament sensor kit for the stock board. Real exciting stuff. But she's printing. Yep, it's nice and quiet too. The stock board's pretty quiet too because it has Trinamics. But you're not going to have any weird stuff with the clone processors like you have with the stock board. All right, let me see. I'm going to make the product page for the filament sensor. What's everybody up to tonight other than watching some guy in his garage work on printer code? I am impatient, so I'm going to turn the speed up. I'm going to set it to like 200% and see if it'll do it. I'm making a product page right now too. Why is my computer like running like garbage? I'm like just editing a web page and my whole computer is like just slowing down like crazy. What the hell? I don't know why this is like, it is chugging. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do, I think I need a reboot or something. Like it is just running like slow. My stream's fine. Maybe it's just my browser. I'm using Brave and usually I don't have issues with Brave running slow. So there we go. Got an EZBoard V2 and the Sovol SV06. So I think the next video will be putting the EZABL on here. What do you guys think? You wanna see that? I mean, their stock sensor on mine works. I know there's been a lot of comments left on the videos where people are saying theirs are not working, and I've seen a lot of Reddit posts as well. So there's that. Maybe I lucked out and I got, you know, a sensor that works halfway decent. Usually I'm the one that gets the crappy stuff, but yeah, she's printing. There we go. We got a little doggo print going. I do want to upgrade the layer fan cooling on here because, like, while this one isn't bad, I highly prefer the 5015 fans. Yeah, I mean, run it until it dies. I'm just going to change out because I don't want to deal with, like, a couple months from now if it does die or when it dies, having to replace that and Krista can't print. So this printer is going to be Krista's personal printer. It's going to be replacing her Ender 2 Pro as her main printer, which has been a great printer, but she wants bigger build size. So she's going to be getting this once I'm done doing the videos and stuff on it. He will die fast as they always do. Tauntaun said he upgraded park cooling fan to 5015 blower. Do you happen to have a link for that? Or the Thingiverse number if it's on Thingiverse? Because that's another one I'll do. I'll do a video on putting that on too. I'll print that up in ABS on one of my other printers. Because really, that's my only complaint is just the mediocre cooling. In terms of like print quality, like the cooling's just it's as expected for what the printer is. So the other thing is I'm going to run another test print now that the board is swapped out of it. I have test prints from the stock board, and the stock board had a bunch of artifacts on the prints. So I am going to do an A/B comparison of our board versus the stock board in terms of print quality, because I think we're going to see an improvement with print quality running our board in here versus the stock board. And I'm assuming that comes down to the CPU being the knockoff on here that it comes with. Printables? Okay. All right, let's see. Printables, SV06. I'm probably going to put, not probably, I'm going to put our Easy Neo LED kits on there too. SV06 5015. Part cooling duct. Excellent. Let's see. Dual. You don't need duals on this printer. A single is fine. LED mount. Oh, this is like some janky LED. Yeah, no, we're going to put the Easy Neos in the top. That's going to be nice and clean. Oh, it's a rear mount. Okay. So here's the, I'm assuming this is the one. This is probably what I would do. This just goes on the rear. Yeah, I like that a lot better because then you see everything. I like this rear duct because there's nothing on the back. This is a nice design. All right, I'm going to download that. I'm going to put that in 3D objects here. Make a new folder, SV06 upgrades. Save. All right. Yep, okay. That's perfect. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Cool. So we'll be doing that then. Honestly, the dual is going to be overkill for this printer. It does not need it. Not even a little bit. Yeah, that makes me satisfied. Yeah, so I have a Benchy and a Cali Dragon printed in a coax navy blue downstairs. Or not a coax, I think it's atomic. But like a navy blue. I'm going to print those same exact prints with the same G-code with the EZBoard and see the print quality difference. Because I think we will see a print quality difference. Mainly in the surface finish on the part. It's amazing, like, you know, like the stock board works, but it's amazing that just like a better quality processor and just a better designed board, like, I was skeptical because some people were telling us like, oh yeah, I switched out to the EZBoard and my printer prints so much better. I was like, well, guys, your stock boards are not terrible. You know, but I guess I'm so used to using our boards and stuff that I just forgot. But I want to have an A/B test and see, be like, hey, here's the ones that came off our board. Everything else is the same on the printer. The only difference is the control board. They're both using the same firmware. You know, they're using the same G-code. The only difference is the board. And the funny thing is our board has the same drivers as theirs, or they're using 2209s, or I believe they are. I mean, here, let's pop a heatsink off and see if they have actual 2209s on here, or if they're using knockoffs on those. I think they're using 2209s. Let's find out. I'm not going to need this board, aside from some testing, but let's see. I'm looking for a pair of pliers right now. I guess these will do. Do you guys think it's going to have genuine Trinamics, or it's going to have some knockoffs? What do you guys think? Let's see. So there's the chip. Let me clean this off. I'm going to re-glue this on. I have this thermal paste. Our board is $99.99, so it's $100. And I think I see a Trinamic logo. Hang on, let's clean it off. I'm just curious. I don't know if there's like knockoffs of the 2209s yet. I know there's 2208 knockoffs out there. This says they're 2209s. Yeah. Here, I'll show you guys in a second. Let me just clean this off so it's clean. And then I'm gonna re-thermal glue this on here because I'm gonna use this board for testing. But yeah, it looks like it has Trinamics on here. They say they're Trinamics. Can you guys see it? You can see that Trinamic logo. which is a shame. This is such a piece of crap processor, and that's the main reason to replace this board is if you want to do more stuff with it, that processor is going to be what's holding you back. You can't do NeoPixels on these because it doesn't work with this ST libraries. The NeoPixel libraries do not work with they do not work with the Maple libraries, which is what the stock board has to use. Our board, because we're using a genuine STM32 processor, doesn't have that problem. We don't have to rely on the libraries that the knockoffs have to use. So yeah, our boards are out of stock right now, but we should have some in about a week. They do sell out frequently. We went for a period of time where things were slow, and I guess, I don't know, somebody made a video or something, but we've been selling quite a few of them. But yeah. And the other thing too with our board is a lot faster than the stock one. It's 168 megahertz processor with a whole mega flash versus the stock one. I think it's 72 megahertz with half a meg. I think it's a 512K SKU. Yeah, it's 512K SKU. But basically, if you want to run input shaping on here, because our new Marlin builds do have input shaping, which is Clipper's big like fanboy thing, like, oh my god, you can print so fast. Our board can do it on the board itself with no Pi needed. I see somebody saying that they needed a Pi. They got rid of Clipper because they needed the Pi for another project. With our board, you can do everything on the board. So, you know, Pi, you can't even get a Pi for $100. You can get our control board for $100, and if your main feature you're after that, you know, Clipper is, you know, fancy about is the input shaping, well, we can do it all on board without need for another processor. Yeah, I'm going to go, so when I get this back downstairs, I'm going to run that same printer. Maybe I'll just bring it up here, but I'm going to do it offline. But I'm going to have both the models from the stock board and from our board side by side and take different angles. I'm going to show them on video and let you guys, I want to see if you guys can tell the difference. So, and I'm going to label them with just like a code on the bottom that hopefully won't be easy to decipher. But yeah, I think we'll see a quality difference, to be completely honest. So this print's about halfway done, it looks like. I'm going to turn it up a little bit. Now, this is at 200% feed rate, by the way. I just turned it up to 250 here. So just to show you here. It's at 250. It was at 200 this entire print. So that print, it was at 200. I think like the first two layers were not at it. But basically, it's at the... Basically for the entire print. Now we're at 250. Yeah, in general with printer firmware, if you're not trying to fix something or add a new feature, you don't need to update. It's not like your computer or your phone that needs security updates. Yeah, and you can see the only print quality issues are the lack of the cooling being good, but that 5015 mount, I think that'll sort that out real good. You can see it's starting to curl up on the edges, and if we had a better fan cooling, if we had better layer fan cooling, that wouldn't be happening at all. But I do actually really like this stock extruder on here. I think it's a great extruder. I think Chris is going to enjoy using this. Do I do a board for the Ender 5 Plus? You can put this board in the Ender 5 Plus as well. The only catch is you have to have the LCD kit installed on it because we do not support the touchscreens, just like any other printer with our firmware. Those Creality touchscreens, you just can't do what you want to do with them. Or I should say I can't do what I want to do with them, which is give you guys more features. But yes, you can use the EZBoard V2 in your Ender 5 Plus. You just also have to have the LCD kit. And the dual adapter board. It's all actually listed on the EZBoard page. So if you guys go to ezboard.th3dstudio.com, I'll put that in the link or in the video description. I don't know why I didn't. I feel like I'm bad at pimping my own stuff. I forget to put links and things. So give me a sec. I'm going to put the links in there while we are watching this. I'm going to put some music on. How's that? You guys want some music? Some chill music while we watch this print? Yeah, the stock board, you can't use NeoPixels on it because they use the knockoff processor. Do most boards work with 12 and 24 volts? In general, yes, but there are some that will not work on 24. And that's usually most of the older ones. But in general, if a board will work on 24, it typically will also work on 12. But you got to be careful because some of them, when you go to 12, you're typically pushing more current through the bed. And if the board's not designed to handle higher current, you can potentially burn the board up. Now, that's not something you have to worry about with ours because we don't cut corners like the Chinese companies do. So basically our board's overkill. That's why it's more expensive. It's built better. It's just built different, as the Zoomers say. Can you use this board without some knowledge of programming? Here. So all the firmware stuff we did today, you don't need to do. Okay? You don't have to do at all. So if you buy our board, you can go to easyfirmware.th3dstudio.com. Once I release the update, there will be a drop down for the SV06 in here. But let's just pretend the SV01 is the SV06. If you wanted to compile your firmware, all you do is tell it you have an SV06. You basically keep clicking next. Okay, let's say it's just a stock SV06. You just keep clicking next. Tell it you're not a robot. Tell it the board you have. So obviously this is the V2. We're not going to backport. We're not going to support these newer printers on the older board. We haven't been selling it for a year. So select your board. So we're a V2, and then I can be like SV01. Imagine this is 06. Firmware for Tim. So that's how I'm going to find my firmware. Hit submit, and now it's going to put in the queue. This is going to automatically build and compile the firmware. So you can see there it's compiling. I'll make this bigger because I realize my screen resolution is large. But this is going to compile the firmware for you. So you don't have to mess with VS Code at all with our board. Like, if you're running a printer that is officially supported, and this will be one of them once I push the next update, you don't have to do anything. You just tell it what printer you have, what options you have, submit it, and then it'll take about 30 seconds to compile. And there we go. It's compiled. I click here. I download the firmware.bin file and then put it on my SD card, and that's it. Put the SD card in the printer. So you could feasibly, if you had an SD reader on your phone or your tablet, you could compile your firmware for our board using this web interface with a smartphone or a tablet. You don't even need to have a computer. And we're one of the only companies that provides this to our customers. It just as a thank you for buying our board, this is a thing we add in addition to the fact that if you need technical support, you will actually talk to somebody in the U.S. We have a full ticket email system. If you do want phone support, we do have that available. It is an additional charge, but if you need help, you can send us an email with pictures, videos, be like, hey, this is the issue I'm having, or hey, I just want to check the connections, and we'll be happy to help you. And we don't outsource any of our support to other countries. All of our support guys, myself and my two other guys, we're all in the U.S. and we're all 3D printing people. So, yeah. So try to find all these boards that these guys on YouTube are hawking that actually have support in the US. Or even support at all that actually gets back to you. So, Dude Blight is asking, does a V1 of the EZBoard support input shaping? Yes, it does. It works great on that board because that board was over-designed when we built it. I have a tendency to go overkill when we're designing things because I want them to last because that's how I am as a consumer. So hopefully that makes sense. Do I deliver to Brazil? Yeah, we do. But all these newer printer models, we will not be supporting on the older EZBoard. So if you want one of these newer printer models and you want the quick setup where we've tested everything, you're going to have to go to the newer board because it doesn't make sense to keep doing new printer support on these older boards that we aren't even selling anymore. So... but yeah, we're really easy to get a hold of. You can send us a ticket and, we typically will get back to you. If we're closed, we'll get back to you the next day. Typically, we'll get back to you within, a couple hours of submitting the ticket. If you do require faster support, like you're like, hey, I just want to get this done. Like, can you guys bump me to the queue? We do have what's called a priority support upgrade. You can either get that when you purchase your order, and that's on any order, and basically that'll push you ahead of the entire queue. Or you can do it on a per ticket instance, which is like $25. So, but everybody gets tech support. It's just, if you want a faster response, even when we're swamped, it is an additional fee, and we just have to do that because our guys don't work for free. So, and usually if it's a ticket that's bumped, I'll get put on the ticket to help them out. So basically, instead of one person looking at it, when they're also handling other tickets, you get multiple people with eyes on it and sending replies. So basically you can get your issue resolved quicker. So, but yeah, it's working. So, how much longer does this have? We're almost done. I'm gonna put some. I'm gonna put some music on. How about that? And we'll enjoy the doggo getting printed. I'm gonna get some product pages made here, and you guys enjoy the print. I appreciate you guys all hanging out. I'm just making myself a to-do list of what we have to update on the Easy firmware site for the new printer, because we have like those additional options for the SV06. So I got to make notes here so we can get that all coded in. What's up, Vaughn? We actually got to see the capsule early. It's friggin' awesome. What have you guys been up to? Just write myself notes so I don't forget things. Tim's task. Let's see. Development web stuff. So easy firmware updates. All right. So I need to write myself notes or I forget. So add SV06. I think we got to add the SV03 as well. That's one that was added. It's officially supported, but it's not in like the wizard. Yeah, we caught the one in Chicago. We actually went there. I have pictures, but we were instructed to not show them, so I'm going to honor that. But it was really cool. Yeah, I think we found where our parts were on there. We were looking for them. I can't be sure. What is ITAR? ITAR? Oh, International Traffic and Arms Regulations? Really? That applies to that stuff? That's crazy. Especially since it's going to be on display. I just googled ITAR. Yeah, we got to see it like on there. Those freaking the pads that they had, that the like the big aluminum feet that it was on. Those were beefy as hell, and the welds look beautiful. Man with no name is asking, can you guys give me a tip about filament brand? So I mean, I'm biased because we sell our own filament and we also sell coax filament. So like those are my go-to. So basically, if I got basic colors that go with coax, if I want something fancy, I use like our spaghetti filament. This is actually our filament we're printing with right now. This is our Lucky Penny Silk Copper PLA. So and the reason I like doing the silks is you can see where there's banding, so you can see some ghosting, and this is just from printing fast. But like those little ringings on the print, that's something that the new input shaping can tune out. And make the print look great even at faster speeds. So yeah, Polymaker makes good stuff. Hatchbox I've printed with, I haven't had any issues with it. Like I've printed with a lot of filaments. You know, because we'll have like some print jobs where someone will want a specific color. I don't have anything bad to say about them. Sunlu, I printed with Sunlu as well. Haven't had any issues. The only filament I've had like repeat issues with, and I haven't bought from them in years, so it could be different now, but Ziltex filament I've had a lot of issues with in the past where they were clogging up hot ends. So I stayed away from them because like having hot ends clogging up because of a bad batch or something is really rough, especially when you bought like 40 rolls of it. So It looks like we're almost done with this print, and then I'm gonna get the code all wrapped up and get this ready. Loose chain, I tried doing Overture. I have tried Overture. Overture is okay. I did have some stringing with their PLA. Duramic is also another, if you're looking for a good cheaper brand, Duramic's, like their PETG I've printed with. My print farm guy, Sean, he swears by Duramic, and I've printed a lot of PETG with Duramic stuff, and their stuff worked really well. You know, there's so many decent, cheap brands out there, it's almost not even worth trying to go out and try these other ones, because every time I've done it, like there's some random Pet Gs I bought just for like doing cheap stuff, and it was like so much string, it was like, yeah, these are going back. Using recycled PET filament? No, I've printed recycled filaments and they came out pretty nice. So now I'm assuming we're going to see some ring on this, because this is at 250% right now speed, and it was at 200 the whole time. So, but I do want to tune input shaping on this, so basically I can push this sucker. So many upgrades and tuning, so little time. Yeah, so the thing is, if you have, if you guys have filaments that are higher quality, usually PLAs, like especially made in the US stuff, I'm assuming made in Canada is probably gonna be similar, you're going to have to print it hotter. So it's just the difference in materials. So like I'm actually running this is our filament. I'm running this at 230. This is a Chinese made filament because I couldn't find a company in the US to make all these cool colors for us. But typically US made filaments, I've noticed they print hotter. So let's see. Yeah, this looks pretty good. There is some ringing on the side. Come on, focus. But this is stuff we can tune out. But yeah, it printed really nice, especially for the fast speed. If I ran this at 60, I didn't feel like waiting. Here's what I'm talking about, why I want to do the 50-15. See how the overhangs are kind of bleh? Upgrading the cooling fan will be better. But this printed great. I'm happy with how they came out. Look at, it's a little comet. It's a silk copper. Oof. He is in his cage right now because he is very wet. So, all right, let me switch back over here and wrap this up. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little stream. This is the kind of stuff I do behind the scenes a lot. I don't always stream when I'm doing like firmware development because sometimes it's just not feasible. It takes up a lot of time. This one I obviously staged some stuff before I started and then just put, you know, some bows on top of it to get everything working. But if you guys are watching this, the firmware, you guys are not going to have to touch any of the settings I did. You're literally just going to tell it you have an SV06, hook up the board like we did. If you're going to use a stock sensor, just use little jumper wires, connect it, and off to the races. That's it. So if you do have a stock Sovol SV06 with a stock board, we do support the EZBoard on that. We also support our Easy Out filament sensor on that as well. The only accessory that will not work on that stock board because they're using a knockoff processor is our LED kits, our Easy Neo LED kits, which I am going to put on this. I just so happen to have one right here, one of the LED strips. So I'm going to mount this up in the top of the bar right here. Because I know Chris is going to want some RGB, so I'm going to mount this up in here and then run the cable down into the printer. But our board will support these natively. You literally just plug the cable into here, plug it into the board, and tell the firmware that you have it, and that's it. It's a really quick setup. So I'm going to do the 50-15 fan, so I think we'll probably do like 1 or 2 more streams on this printer. One more being installing the Easy ABL on there, and then I think the other one I'll do like the NeoPixels. So our Easy Neo Pixel strips, and then the 50-15 fan. So I'll get the 50-15 fan mount that, what was his name? Hang on. I want to give him credit. Who was saying it? Tom. That he said, so I'm going to print that up in ABS, just because I like to print my fan ducts in ABS. They last longer. I don't have to worry about them warping like PLA can do. So I'll get that printed up on one of my ABS machines. You can see I've got 3 of them behind me. And also, if you guys do ever need ABS parts and you don't have a printer, we do offer a printing service, so just let us know. But But yeah, so if you guys need something printed, just be like, hey, here's the STL file. Can you guys print this up for me? And we'll give you a quote. So we're pretty cheap compared to a lot of places. And typically, especially for like a smaller part like that, usually I'll get it done and it'll be shipping next business day. So, all right. I think that's it. Do you guys have any questions before I wrap this up? Bueller. Then I'll get got some code to push out and some updates to our firmware site. And then the next printer I'm going to actually be doing dev work on will be the SV01 Pro, getting the LCD kit on there. So a lot of Sovol action. Also, I pre-ordered the SV06 Plus because people kept asking me about it. SV06 prints ABS well. Yeah, the bed will hit 100. I tested it. So just put it in an enclosure. You need an enclosure to do ABS prints properly. Otherwise, you start getting layer delamination and all that fun stuff, unless you live in a place where it's like 90+ degrees out. ABS is toxic. Some people are sensitive to the fumes. I'm not. I literally work in here every day, and these are usually running a couple days a week. I also have a HEPA filter in here just because I have allergies, so, you know, if you're worried about it, I always tell people if you're worried about the printer and off-gassing or fumes or whatever, then put it somewhere that you're not in. You know, keep it away from birds and stuff. So birds are really sensitive to that kind of stuff, which we do have birds now. I didn't used to have birds, but my fiance lives with me, so we have 2 birds now. 2 birds, 2 dogs, a guinea pig, and 6 cats. It's a zoo. So, yeah, ABS does not smell good. I do not like the ABS. So, but anyways, I'm going to sign off. Just stay tuned in the next couple of days. We'll start posting stuff out about the updates that we just did here to the board. Hopefully this video helps you guys out if you are switching out your SV06 with our EZBoard V2. And with that, I'm going to let you guys go. I hope you guys have an awesome night. I'll see you guys on the next stream. And as always, happy printing. I'll see you guys later.